Carnegie Mellon is a great example of what it means to move forward.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Damn, son. CFU.
Last year was a milestone celebration, Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birth anniversary. We sat in a packed auditorium, elbows touching, barely a few inches away from each other, bending over as we exchanged words with our neighbor. Today, we are all gathered again, paying homage to the same man, but not under the same roof. There's a physical distance, yes, but we are as connected with our love, our awe, and respect for a man who changed the world with his thoughts and ideas. Ideas that have been relevant for nearly a century and as are relevant today in our current scenario. The world has changed in just a few months, but this man's ideas have stood the test of time. Spiritual leader and author Amit Ray recently said, in every crisis, doubt, or confusion, take the higher path. And that is, in fact, Gandhi's path, a path of compassion, understanding, and love. And that is what will lead to a world of harmony. Namaskar, good evening. I'm Manisha Kumar Cletus, and together with my good friend and co-host Sumedha Nagpal.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, we welcome you to Gandhi Community Celebration 2020. Today, we are going to celebrate an extraordinary man's extraordinary journey.
True.
With prayers, dance, music, art, words. But most of all, we are going to celebrate it with love. Right, Sameda?
That's right, Manisha. Faith and prayer both are invisible, but they make impossible things possible. Faith is a source of comfort and hope in everyday life when we struggle with profound questions and situations, especially through this pandemic where we are hoping to find that love, that cure, that light for good health and peace for everyone. That's where our interfaith leaders step in. Interfaith prayers will be followed by a few remarks from the Consul General of India, New York, Mr. Randhir Jaiswal. So without further ado, I welcome our interfaith leaders and priests to begin this segment of our program. Thank you.
Namo Buddhaya. It is an honor for me to be part of this celebration of Mahatma Gandhi. The life and teachings of Mahatma Gandhi have been inspiring so many generations. His teachings sound ever relevant today than ever. And let us continue to celebrate, continue to commemorate teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. And I would like to highlight one of his teachings, one of his guidelines. He said once, there are many causes that I'm ready to die for, but there's no cause that I'm ready to kill for. He taught us to go beyond the outer coverings of religions and philosophies and go into the underneath common ground, which is the non-violence. So with that memory, let us continue to follow his teachings, continue to live by his teachings, and we will have a harmonious, peaceful society. With that, I wish for such a harmonious society. With that wish, let me chant for you. Dukkha patta ca nidukkha Bhaya patta ca nibhaya Sukha patta ca nisukha Huntu sabbe pipanino. May all those who are suffering be free from suffering. May all those who are in fear be free from fear. May all those who are grieving be free from grief. May all beings be well and happy. Thank you.
Namaste. I am Reverend Janet Hellner Burris, the pastor of the Christian Church of Wilkinsburg, an interracial family of faith in the heart of our urban community. I'm also the board chair of the Wilkinsburg Sanctuary Project for Peace. In this season when our African American brothers and sisters are crying out for racial justice and equity, we need to recommit ourselves to the principles of nonviolence which Gandhi taught us. I first learned those principles by studying Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolent movement for civil rights. I learned through Dr. King and through Gandhi that violence only begets violence. And the only way to truly change structures and laws is to change the human heart. And the heart can only be changed by love and nonviolence. Recently, I learned that Gandhi meditated on Jesus' words in the Sermon on the Mount every morning and every evening. He said those words cut to his heart and were a template, a guide, a how-to manual in how to live each day nonviolently. If we are to save our planet, we need to recommit ourselves to Gandhi's simple lifestyle. If we are to create justice and peace for all of our citizens, we need to recommit ourselves to nonviolence and to the power of love. We need to no longer be a fan of Gandhi, we need to be a follower of Gandhi. Today and every day, let us recommit ourselves to what Gandhi's student Dr. King charged us to do, to refrain from the violence of fist, tongue, and heart.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again I feel honored to be a part of the celebrations of Mahatma Gandhi's birthday, a day of celebration of peace. The whole world is affected due to COVID-19 in one way or the other, and everyone is learning to cope accordingly. Even in these times, it is important to remember the great souls that have made a positive impact in our history. There are those who go against the currents of even the strongest tides for the betterment of the human society. In an attempt to bring peace and harmony in the world, many, like Mahatma Gandhi, paid in the end with their life. In Sikhism, one of our spiritual masters, Guru Arjan, raised his voice against the tyranny of the rulers. As a result, he was tortured to death, but his death set in motion the beginning of civil unrest and the eventual downfall of a long-established tyranny, spreading the message of acceptance and tolerance of people from all walks of life. All these great souls throughout history had an understanding of the universe that most could not comprehend, an innate understanding that some strive their whole life to achieve. Mahatma Gandhi said, "Always aim at complete harmony of thoughts and word and deed. Always aim at purifying your thoughts and everything will be well." This understanding is especially crucial now in these times of unrest in the world, in our individual regions, nations, states, and within our communities. Gandhi became the change himself as a leader of society, setting milestones of progress for the rest of the world to follow in kind. He lived such an exemplary life and is still living in the hearts of thousands. In 6 scriptures, the first thing we recite in our Mool Mantra is, in our basic creed, is Ik Oankar, meaning everything is one and that God is a part of that oneness. As we are celebrating the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi, we can take a pause to ask God to give us the strength to move ahead in our united course to make this earth a place where everyone can end the duality that separates us. Thank you.
Namaste, I am Sanjay Mehta, Religious Program Coordinator for the Hindu Jain Temple, Monroeville. A powerhouse is meant or built to provide energy, or services, or resources to the community. And Mahatma Gandhi was one such powerhouse of the character values, which have been inspiring many of us across the world for more than a century and will continue to inspire. So Gandhiji used to say that I get that power myself from the reading of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the encyclopedia of Hindu teachings. But he used to derive the power, the emotional strength, not for himself, for the people looking for his guidance or the weakest in the society. So on behalf of Hindu Jain Temple, I appreciate, congratulate the efforts of Ahimsa group for propagating the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. And I'll just close with one of his quote. And he says, whenever yourself become too much, recall the face of the weakest person whom you may have seen and ask yourself, if your act be of any use to that person, you will find that yourself, your ego, is melting away. So Gandhiji's life was meant to serve the weakest, and that's the reason he used to draw the strength for himself and distribute to others like a powerhouse of character. So again, best wishes for Gandhiji's birthday celebration, and on behalf of Hindu Jain Temple, I congratulate and appreciate your efforts. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste, very warm greetings from the Indian Consulate in New York. We are so delighted that Ahimsa, Alliance for Humanitarian Initiatives, Nonviolence and Spiritual Advancement, under the leadership of Som Sharma, is organizing Gandhi Day event in Pittsburgh. We are also delighted that a large number of community members have joined him in this initiative. Of even more higher import is that a large number of youth have come together to celebrate 150th birth anniversary celebrations of Mahatma Gandhi. This year, we'll be marking the close of the events that we started in 2018, when we started celebrating his 150th birth anniversary the world over. We are living in a digital age. We are living in a global world. In these times, it's so important that we espouse and we learn more from people who have championed universal values, who've championed togetherness. And for that reason, it's important that we celebrate Mahatma Gandhi and his teachings and his legacy. His teachings are very simple. He talked of compassion, of kindness, of being good human beings, of togetherness. All these things are so important today, in today's world, for a happy living, for a kind world, and for all of us to have joy and happiness in our work life, in our relationships. So I think we need to not just study Mahatma Gandhi, but to bring his simple teachings in our daily lives to create a better world. I wish the event the very best. Thank you.
The Indian cultural scene in our beautiful city is very vibrant, and it's constantly expanding due to the efforts of some very committed and talented artists. And I'm going to introduce you to one of them right now. An accomplished danseuse, choreographer, dedicated guru of Bharatanatyam, folk, contemporary, as well as Hindustani classical music, this multi-talented Pittsburgh icon is Srimati Shambhavi Devi. This is not surprising at all, as Shambhavi belongs to a family of artists. In fact, she obtained her training in Bharatanatyam in Kalashetra style from her mother, Bharatanatyam Manipuri exponent, Srimati Tani Desai. After earning her master's degree in dance with honors, Shambhavi received advanced training under renowned gurus Padma Bhushan Shri C.V. Chandrasekhar and Srimati Jaya Chandrasekhar. Shambhavi ji is the recipient of the prestigious Kala Gurjar Award by the state of Gujarat. Shambhavi Desai is the founder and artistic director of the Sanskriti School of Indian Dance and Music in Pittsburgh, and also a faculty member at the Pandit Jasraj Institute of Music and Research. Sanskriti makes its presence felt everywhere, and tonight they reinforce Gandhi's message of diversity with a unique fusion dance piece called Dance Beyond Boundaries. This is a collaboration between Sanskriti School of Indian Dance and Music and Flamenco Pittsburgh. Concept and choreography, Shambhavi Desai, Moha Desai, Carolina Loyola Garcia, and Abha Bias.
I'm a big fan of Shambhavi Desai,
So am I.
Manisha, and I'm really looking forward. But the true definition of creative writing is to express your ideas and thoughts in an imaginative way. It can be in the form of art, poem, an essay, a song, or a biography. And our youngsters just did that and impressed us all. We had 46 submissions for our creative writing and art contest. Immediately following the dance by Shambhavi Desai and her group, we shall have readings and presentation of awards for our creative writing contest hosted by Dr. Jennifer Petrie.
Oh, that would be interesting to see what the youth
Yes,
think
I'm
about Gandhi.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful, yeah.
But for now, ladies and gentlemen, let's break down walls and smash down barriers with Dance Beyond Boundaries.
Let's do it.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jennifer Petrie, and what a powerful performance we just saw by Sanskruti School of Indian Dance and Music and Flamenco Pittsburgh. The dance demonstrated such an important outcome, the ways that art can both celebrate difference and also bridge connections, two things very much needed in today's world. So now what we're going to do is move on to the presentation of the Creative Writing and Art Contest for 2020 Gandhi Day. Each year, the Alliance for Humanitarian Initiatives, Nonviolence, and Spiritual Advancement put on a writing and art contest for youth in the Pittsburgh region. Each year, we ask children aged 10 to 14 to enter submissions to reflect on both the life and legacy of Gandhi. In this year, we asked the students to reflect on an important theme. We asked the youth to reflect on a time when they served their community in efforts to build peace. We asked them to think about how the action made them feel, what the action did to take in the future and mirror Gandhi's commitment to serving communities, building peace, and action. And specifically for this year, we asked them to reflect on the legacy of Gandhi and also civil rights leaders, including Martin Luther King and John Lewis. And we asked them to think how all of these people contribute to serving communities and building peace. As part of the contest, judges from the Alliance of Humanitarian Initiatives, Nonviolence, and Spiritual Advancement met to discuss the submissions. We used an important rubric to determine the quality and also the way that these submissions connected back to the theme of the year. For this year, we were very impressed by the quality of submitted entries, and it was very high and thoughtful. We were impressed by the youth's service to the community. Pittsburgh should be proud that we have such contributing members of our community that are so young. And most importantly, we were encouraged by how the youth believed in the principles of nonviolence and working together as human beings to solve problems. I know I couldn't have been more impressed to hear the inspiring stories of children, especially during the challenging times that we are in. Also for this year, we wanted to present to you some important demographics and judging criteria for the contest. First of all, we were so pleased that there were 46 entries of artwork, creative video, essay, and poetry submitted this year from over 23 schools in the greater Pittsburgh area. Also, 72% of these participants were girls. Compared to where Gandhi was 151 years ago, I think we've made a lot of improvement on girls' education. Also, each entry to the contest was reviewed by 3 judges, and everybody should know that all the entries were judged without the judges' knowledge of the contestant's name, age, gender, or school they attended. Also, we wanted to let you know that after reviewing the submissions this year, we decided to do things a little bit differently. We decided to have all of the top 5 winners receive an iPad. So instead of having the first place winner receive a laptop and the second and third receive an iPad, we decided that 5 of the submissions really were powerhouses and that they were deserving of an iPad each. Also, we decided to have 4 honorable mentions, and we decided to give these honorable mentions a specific backpack. This backpack is made from Thread International, which is a local Pittsburgh startup. If you haven't heard of Thread International, you should look them up. They're one of those businesses in Pittsburgh that are really making a difference both in our community and our world. What they do is they take recycled plastics from developing countries such as Haiti, and they make these into renewable thread, which can be woven into fabrics, such as the backpacks that these students are receiving. So if you're interested in them, feel free to look them up. The backpacks are part of a line called Day Owl by Thread International. Now, without further ado, we will move on to present the winners. And so the top 5 winners are Keithana Vasish, a 5th grader from Montessori Center Academy. Nikhil Unikat from Falk Laboratory School. Mira Reddy from Winchester Thurston City Campus. Olivia Parker from St. Edmunds Academy, and Zaitun Kirabu from St. Edmunds Academy. Also, I wanted to let you know that we'll be showing you a video from each of these top 5 winners so you can really see the meaning and power of their work. Also, just to let you know, Mira's submission will just be an excerpt of her essay since it was long, so we just decided to have an excerpt from her. Also, before we get to the top 5 winners, I want to announce to you the honorable mentions, which also demonstrated tremendous quality this year, and we felt that they deserved recognition as well today. We have Iris Rang, a 5th grader from Boyce Middle School, Ashleen West, a 6th grader from Eden Hall Upper Elementary, Graham Whitaker, a 7th grader from St. Edmunds Academy, and Jasmine Vereen, an 8th grader from Pittsburgh Langley. Here is a look at work from Ashleen West. What she did was she put together some sidewalk chalk art. She invited participants in her neighborhood to come together to reflect on the values of community and building peace together. As you can see, the art clearly shows this, and what a great way to still bring community together with the challenges we all face with social distance in 2020. We thought her work was very creative. Next, we have Iris Rang. Iris submitted an original artwork, which you can see a beautiful girl reflecting on the power and legacy of peace in Gandhi. She also included children at the bottom of the art to really show you that all children can work together to contribute to their communities. Next, we have Graham Whitaker, who wrote a poem, which I'll read just 2 stanzas from. Protests, rebellions, fights for equal fair rights, fights to end racism, fights to end war, fights for peace. Whether you march to the sea for salt or march through the roads of Tennessee, you fight for freedom, you fight for your rights, you fight for peace, change for the better. His poem continues, but what a powerful reflection from such a young person as well. And next, we are going to go to Jasmine Vereen. We want you to know to make a special recognition of Jasmine today. Jasmine is a special needs student at Pittsburgh Langley. Her teacher reached out to her about a month ago to tell her about this contest, and she couldn't have been more excited to talk about the ways that she contributes to her community. Jasmine has autism spectrum disorder, and what this means is that students like her face challenges with speech and also communication. But in spite of her challenge, she wanted to share with you what Gandhi means to her and what contributing to her community means. So what we'll do now is share with you Jasmine's video to show you in her own words what Gandhi means to her. Following that, we'll go into the top 5 panelists. We hope you enjoy seeing them.
My name is Jasmine Ray. I am an 8th grader at Pittsburgh Langley K-8. I have volunteered with Blessed and a Backpack since 6th grade. One day every week I spend 2 hours preparing and delivering food back. We give students food for the weekend so they are not hungry. It makes me feel happy to make others because I like to make them happy. But by doing nice things for people, I help make the world a better place. I want to leave a legacy like Gandhi Martin Luther King and John Lewis, they dedicated their lives to serving communities and building peace, and so will I.
When you think of the date, April 24th, 2020, what event comes to your minds? You might think of a friend's birthday, or that the United States and other countries across the world had been in quarantine for a little over a month. However, April 24th, 2020, commemorated another unique event for many people to recognize and value vital members of our community. April 24th, 2020, was a day of silence. A day to wordlessly stand up to people who have bullied someone that identifies as LGBTQ+.
Hello, my name is Kirtana and I'm 10 years old. I was inspired when reading an article online for our weekly current event assignment about the 9/11 Twin Tower attack. We shouldn't have gun violence and terrorism in the world. Some of Gandhiji's greatest followers in US history are Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, who continue to bring peace to the world with nonviolence. I read one of Gandhiji's famous quotes saying, "Non-violence is a weapon of the strong." This is a solution to all our worldwide challenges. People of different cultures should unite and bring peace to the world. In conclusion, the doves in my picture are directing the world to peace, which is what Gandhiji did in his life.
Hi, my name is Nikhil Unadkar. I'm 10 years old. My piece of art represents Mahatma Gandhi's principle of non-violent protest. These are different points in time. As you can see, in 1947, Gandhi led the Satyagraha movement. This led to India's freedom from the British. Inspired by this, Martin Luther King Jr. led the civil rights movement in the 1960s. Based on this legacy, today in 2020, we see the peaceful protests for Black Lives Matter movement. This is me. I went to the Black Lives Matter movement too. Nonviolent peaceful movements can lead to real change. And this was all started by Gandhiji. Thank you for accepting my submission.
Hello, my name is Zaitun Kirabo, and this is my submission for the Gandhi Day 2020 Creative Writing and Arts Contest. The word peace has multiple definitions, but I want to draw attention to this one: harmony in personal relations. Mahatma Gandhi was someone who modeled this definition. As a brilliant and noble man, he devoted his life to peace and justice within his community. And for a man who faced a lot of discrimination in his life, his efforts of nonviolent resistance successfully led to India's independence. But that's not all he did. He urged peace and justice for his community and his people. That is what made him the hero and idol to the millions that he inspires globally today. I, unlike Gandhi, haven't made a huge difference, but I have brought some change into my community. One thing that I take pride in is being a co-founder of the very first Black Student Union at St. Edmund's Academy. Through Black Student Union, I have been able to educate our school community on important topics and issues, such as when we gathered together to commemorate important Black figures for Black History Month, or when we set up a peace rally to acknowledge all the uprisings that were going on in the world as a community. For the future, I hope that I can continue to make a difference in my community to better our generation and others to come. And I think to be able to achieve that, one must be informed on not only what is going on in the world today, but also what happened in the past to ensure that history is not repeated so that we can move on in harmony. Just like Gandhi said, an eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind. That is why, as someone who was not born in this country, I especially think it is important to pass on such rich history, because then we can become better individuals, which allows us to work together in peace and harmony towards the better tomorrow Gandhi wished for the world. People like Martin Luther King or John Lewis, who were inspired by Gandhi's methods of peaceful and non-violent resistance, left an important legacy for everybody that I believe our generation has a responsibility to uphold. It would be a shame to abandon such a legacy. It would be like turning your back on everyone, including yourself, because these heroes' lives, work, and efforts would have all been in vain. But there is still hope. Unlike years past, there are a lot more inspired young people joining in today's issues, like Black Lives Matter, to fight for our future. Millions of young people have come out and marched peacefully and non-violently for change, and they still continue to make efforts so change can happen. By gathering together, they have learned that their voices have the power to make a difference. If we keep pushing hard, then we can reach the goal of harmony that Gandhi had wanted for the world.
Hi, my name is Olivia Parker. Giving back. Everyone should try to give back, because some people might have half of what you do, or some people might have more than what you do, but you still have to make the world a better place, because you're living in it too. You have to remember you aren't the only one here. There are people all around you no matter where you are. Your friends, your family, people you work with, and just even some people you don't even know. Just try to do your part to make the world a better place. Gandhi was a great man, and one we should look up to. Something I did that hopefully gave back to the community was going to the Tree of Life gathering. We all sang songs and prayed for the people that have lost their lives just because of what they believed in. After that, our community was stronger, and we finally figured out that if we not only embrace each other, we accept that what race or gender or beliefs that someone has, we can all come together to have a beautiful community like we have now. Of course, there's still room for improvement, and there will always be, but after COVID, I am trying to volunteer at pet shelters and food shelters to help my community so that I can give back to the place that I'm growing up in. Also, in the future, when I'm old enough, I'm going to volunteer at my local hospital so that I can try to make the patients' lives a little more fun, with caution, of course. In the future, I hope to be able to have a good job so that no matter where I am, I can help people. When my mom was younger, she and her mom used to go around and on Christmas and give the homeless sleeping bags, food, blankets, and pillows. I hope that in the future I can do that tradition that my mom used to do with my family. Our world isn't perfect. Our country isn't perfect. We just need to do our best for our community, because that is where we live and where we can start to try and fix the rest of the world. I'm not saying I am perfect, because I'm not perfect. No one is. I'm just trying to do my part to give back to the community. Thank you.
Start speaking.
First, they ignore you, then they fight you, then you win. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Live as if you were to die tomorrow, and learn as if you were to live forever. Nandini Mandal is the Karma Yogi I'm talking about. I can righteously call her a dance Mahatma for her dedication and love of dance. Nandini is the founder and artistic director of Nandanik Dance Academy. She is a multifaceted dancer, teacher, and a composer, trained not only in Bharatnatyam, but also in Manipuri. She has directed and choreographed several Rabindranath Tagore plays. Today, Nandanik artists bring to us a beautiful rendition to a Mahatma Gandhi song, on Mahatma Gandhi, based on a John Lennon song, Imagine. The dance performance will be followed by a few thoughts and remarks by Dr. Nico Slate and M. Shernal Smith of CMU, and our very own Mr. Som Sharma. Enjoy the dance.
Namaskar. I am here to present our tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. We are going through a strange time, everywhere, all around. We are desperately seeking peace, happiness, calmness, good health for everyone under the sky. Mahatma believed in peace and unity of mankind. He was aptly named Mahatma by Rabindranath Tagore. We offer this prayer to the Mahatma and also respect him, also give our respects to the Mahatma through this beautiful song by John Lennon, Imagine. If they do not come out in answer to your call, then walk alone. Walk alone. If they do not dare speak, if they all cover and turn their faces away, then, O you of evil luck, open your mouth without wreck and speak out alone. If all of them turn back and no one looks your way when you have to cross the dark and desolate path, then walk on alone, trampling the thorns of the path under your blood-stained feet. If they do not hold up the lamp, if they shut the door upon you on a darksome night of storm and rain, then enkindle the rib cage of your own heart with the thunder's flame and burn alone. It was written in 1905, and this is our tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. Thank you.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people sharing for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. Wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, or brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
Hello, friends. Happy Gandhi Jayanti. My name is Nico Slate. I teach in the history department at Carnegie Mellon, and it's my honor and pleasure to speak with you all on this occasion. Towards the end of his life, Gandhi was asked by an African-American reporter for a message for the African-American community. Gandhi replied, "My life is my message." That quote speaks to what I see as one of the most important facets of Gandhi's life, the way in which he tried to live his values in his daily life, in his politics. He tried not just to believe something, but to act on it. And what he would want more than anything else on the occasion of his birth anniversary is for us not to focus on him, but rather to learn from him lessons we can then bring to our own lives. He would want us to turn the lens on ourselves. And that's what I try to do whenever I have the opportunity to think about Gandhi or to learn from him. I try to ask myself the same question that Gandhi asked himself regularly throughout his life, which is, how can I live better the values that I hold dear? Let me just say two things about how Gandhi tried to do that. The first is that Gandhi changed dramatically throughout his life. You might have come across articles claiming that Gandhi was racist. And in fact, for the first 10 years of his time in South Africa, he did make comments that I would call racist. He didn't interact very much with the struggles of Black South Africans. And at times, he actively used white supremacy to try to advance the interests of the Indian community. But he changes. About halfway through his time in South Africa, he starts to forge ties with Black South Africans to learn from them and their struggles. And actually to learn from other members of the African diaspora in other parts of the world. He becomes an increasingly outspoken critic of white supremacy and a strong supporter of those fighting against it throughout the world. So that by the time that African reporter asked Gandhi for that message, he had already demonstrated his strong commitment to the African American struggle against racism here in this country, and the struggle against racism in many other parts of the world. And that's just one facet of his life in which he changes. He changes dramatically in regards to his views on caste, in regards to his views on women's equality. He changes more than most historical figures I've had the pleasure of studying. And I try to learn from him. If we think about Gandhi as someone who emerges from his mother's womb wearing the loincloth and the walking stick, ready to fight for India's freedom, we're gonna think that he's somehow a saint. And we don't have to learn from saints because they're different from us. Whereas in fact, Gandhi was a human being, and a very flawed one, but one that changed consistently over the course of his life. And hopefully we too can learn from him to change. The other key lesson that I take from Gandhi is that we have to speak up for what we believe in. Gandhi was painfully shy as a young man. In fact, when he was in college, he had a hard time even speaking up in public. But he realized that he had to overcome that fear if he was going to stand up for what he believed in. Right now, here in this country, we're in the middle of an incredibly important election. I hope that all of you who are watching that have the ability to vote, do so. But regardless of whether you have the chance to vote in this election in this country, I hope that you take the opportunity to talk with your friends and your family and your classmates and anyone you can about the issues that are at stake here, the issues that are at stake in so many parts of the world. This is not a historical moment to be shy or to be quiet about what we believe in. We have to stand up and speak up for what we believe is right, just as Gandhi did. And that's not easy for those of us, and I actually put myself in this category, who often feel shy, who don't like to force our opinions on others. But another very important thing I've learned from Gandhi is that speaking up and talking with people and engaging them on the issues that we care about doesn't have to be about forcing our opinions on others. It can be an opportunity to learn. This is how I connect actually the two key points I've made here. If we're constantly changing and constantly evolving, then when we talk about what we believe about with others, it's not just about us trying to get them to think what we think, but it's also an opportunity for us to reflect again on the values we hold most dear. Doesn't mean we'll change all the time, but it means that we're open to change. And that will make us, I think, more tolerant of others and also more effective at engaging others in these incredibly important times. So on this occasion, I hope for you all that you have the chance to celebrate Gandhi, but don't stop there. He wouldn't want that. Celebrate Gandhi, but learn from him and learn from him lessons that you can put to action in your own life.
If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a man changes his own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him. We need not wait to see what others do. Good afternoon. My name is M. Chanel Smith, and I have the privilege of being the Executive Director of the Center for Student Diversity and Inclusion at Carnegie Mellon. Let me first begin by thanking Dr. Nico Slate, Department Head and Professor of History at Carnegie Mellon, for his welcoming remarks and contributions to our programming this afternoon. Dr. Slate's research and teachings focus on the history of social movements in the United States and India. One of his latest books, entitled Gandhi's Search for the Perfect Diet, Eating with the World in Mind, is one in which we highly recommend to our audience joining us this afternoon. I would also be remiss if I did not take a moment to uplift the messages from our local youth and their commitments to giving back to our Pittsburgh community. We have some great role models in our youth, and we have so much we could learn from them. The Center for Student Diversity and Inclusion is truly honored to continue our long-standing commitment to the annual Pittsburgh Gandhi Community Celebration. We are joined by numerous community organizations, nonprofits, universities, and colleges in honoring Gandhi's life and legacy of peace, nonviolence, and social justice. As a center, we look forward to continuing to partner with Ahimsa and other community orgs in illuminating the messages of interfaith community, service, diversity, and inclusion. At this time, I would also like to just take a moment to thank Sam Kolovecki from our center team for all of her help logistically with this webinar. Over 15 years ago, I had the honor of being introduced to someone who I consider to be one of the most important Pittsburgh community leaders of my tenure in this city. Som Sharma has been a friend, a mentor, and the embodiment of servant leadership. I am who I am today because of advocates, educators, and social justice leaders like Shom. It is my pleasure to introduce Som Sharma, who will give remarks and introduce our keynote talk.
Thanks, Janelle. Hello and namaste to all. It's my proud privilege to express deep gratitude and thanks to a wonderful team of volunteers, busy professors, administrators, IT specialists, doctors, dedicated, knowledgeable, sincere, to put together a beautiful program under the present difficult circumstances. It's a true story of rising to the occasion, using technology and exemplary teamwork, mostly behind the scenes. And my thanks to the group of around 40 performers, extremely gifted dance teachers, and their talented students, and also Flamenco Pittsburgh. And especially to all young persons for their essays and artwork. And very special thanks to the essay and art team for reaching out to young students, developing an objective criteria, and judging the wonderful entries, showing clearly the hope for the future in our 46 bright young contestants. And to Carnegie Mellon University's Center for Diversity and Inclusion, and their teachers and their leader, my dear friend, Chanel Smith. And also to CMU's Media Services, and to a dear and respected friend, Professor Nico Slate, about whom you just heard. A couple of more words about Nico. He does not only teach and do research, but he actually puts in practice what he preaches through his Bajaj lab right here in Pittsburgh. The lab is inspired by Gandhi's longtime associate, Sri Jamnalal Bajaj. And thanks to all my esteemed friends in faith who always come through with meaningful and profound messages and prayers, and to sponsors and other supporters of Ahimsa over the years, and to many others who helped and supported in a variety of ways, and to you, the audience, those who tuned in today to listen to the messages, for your interest and your time, and also thanks to anyone I might have missed. And finally, to our keynote speaker, Dr. Ira Helfand, a busy physician in Boston area, for his message to which we look forward, and for his determined dedication to his lifelong work. Very inspiring campaign against nuclear weapons. I had read about Ira mainly in Rotary International materials. I've been a Rotarian for a long, long time. And then at Rotary International Peace Conference in California in January this year, I heard him in person. After his address, I was fortunate enough to have a brief personal meeting with him. Fortunate, since there was a long line of people waiting to talk to him. For me, it was like a Hindu's darshan of an avatar of peace. Peace and calm flow from his persona of simplicity and humility. In spite of being a busy physician, Ira has found time to found or co-found organizations like Physicians for Social Responsibility, International Physicians for Prevention of Nuclear War, and International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICAN. The organizations he founded and he himself have been honored with the Nobel Peace Prize. The list of his accomplishments and his lifetime dedication to ongoing work for peace is way too long. I thank Ira for letting me call him my friend, and have the honor to present to you all an outstanding fellow Rotarian, a brave and pioneering soldier of peace, a decent, humble human being, and an esteemed friend, Dr. Ira Helfand.
Som, thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thank you even more for inviting me to join you today for this celebration of Gandhi's birthday. I'm not sure I'm the best person to be talking today. This program has been filled with the wonderful, hopeful message of the various presentations, the artwork, the young people's essays and artwork. And I need to talk about something which is a bit darker in hue than the note that's been struck so far in this program. But I hope I will be able to end this on a note of appropriate hope as well. This is an incredibly difficult year that we're living through. Here in the United States, we are dealing with the worst epidemic in over a century. We are dealing with the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression 80 years ago, 90 years ago. We're dealing with a long overdue reckoning about racial injustice in this country, inspiring in terms of the outpouring of public activism against racism, but really sobering in the evidence that we are seeing of the ongoing terrible price that our society pays for the racism which so permeates it. And in this setting, I come to you today to talk about another problem, one which you're probably not thinking about very much, but which I think we need to keep front and center, something which we cannot forget about. And that is the existential danger posed by nuclear weapons. 30 years ago, during the end of the Cold War, everyone in America, around the world, was keenly aware of the extraordinary danger posed by these weapons, the threat to our survival that they posed. But we have forgotten about that. And we've all acted as though the danger of nuclear war has gone away. And the problem is that it hasn't. The weapons never went away. There are still more than 14,000 of them in the world. And in the last 4 or 5 years, the danger of nuclear war has grown dramatically. Relations between the United States and Russia have deteriorated to the worst point since the end of the Cold War. Relations between the United States and China have deteriorated to the worst point in 40 years. The situation in Korea is well known to all of us from the news coverage of the dangerous crisis ongoing there. And another area which is perhaps more known to many of the people in this audience than to most Americans, the danger that is growing every day in South Asia in the ongoing standoff between India and Pakistan. For all of these reasons, our current moment is more dangerous, in the opinion of people like William Perry, the former Secretary of Defense, than even the most dangerous moments of the Cold War. And that assessment is shared by the panel of experts at the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, who just this year set their doomsday clock to 100 seconds to midnight, the closest it has ever been to a nuclear apocalypse. So let me take just a few minutes to remind us of what is at stake, what's going to happen if these weapons are used, because we have forgotten that too. Again, back in the Cold War period, we tended to think of the threat to the world as a whole as coming only from a potential war between the United States and the Soviet Union. What we've learned over the last decade is that that is indeed still an enormous threat, the greatest threat we face, but that even a much more limited nuclear war, as might, for example, take place between India and Pakistan, would also be a complete disaster, not just for the people of South Asia, but for the entire planet. A study that was released in September of last year, 2019, showed that if war took place today between India and Pakistan, given the current size of their nuclear arsenals and the current size of the cities that would be attacked in such a war, in the first week alone, 80 to 120 million people could die from the direct effects of the explosions, the fires, the radiation. But these direct effects are only part of the story, because the 150 to 200 firestorms created by these nuclear weapons would loft enormous amounts of soot into the upper atmosphere, anywhere from 15 to 35 million tons of soot. And it would block out the sun, and it would drop temperatures across the entire Earth, and it would cause a catastrophic decline in food production, a global famine that would put up to 2 billion people at risk of starvation. Now, as we know, this is not some abstract possibility. India and Pakistan have been to war 4 times since independence. They came close to war twice last year. And this is an ongoing danger as long as the nuclear arsenals exist in both of these countries. A war, as I suggested, between the United States and Russia would be even more catastrophic. A large-scale conflict between these two largest of the nuclear powers would put not 35 million tons of soot into the upper atmosphere, but something on the order of 150 million tons of soot. And that would essentially create a modern ice age, a human, man-made nuclear ice age. Temperatures across the planet would drop an average of 14 degrees Fahrenheit. In the interior regions of North America and Eurasia, the temperatures would drop anywhere from 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. It would be a new ice age. And under these conditions, the vast majority of the human race would starve to death, and we might become extinct as a species. We cannot continue to hold all of humanity hostage to this kind of wanton destruction. We have to understand what is going to happen if we don't take action. But that's where the good news comes in, because we can take action. Nuclear weapons are not a force of nature. It's not as though an asteroid was coming at the planet and there was nothing we can do about it. These are little machines that we have built with our hands. They're smaller than the desk I'm sitting at talking to you right now. We know how to take them apart. We've dismantled already more than 50,000 of these weapons. We certainly know how to dismantle the 15,000 that remain. All that we are lacking is the political will to do that. And on that front, there is further good news, because people around the world are starting to stir. They're starting to take action. Over the last 5 or 6 years, a global campaign, the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, which is made up of some 590 NGOs on every continent except Antarctica, has come into being. And it has worked with countries around the world which do not possess nuclear weapons to negotiate a new treaty the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which was adopted at the United Nations in July of 2017 by a vote of 122 to nothing. When 50 nations ratify that treaty, it will enter into force and become international law. As of today, 46 countries have done that, and it is our hope and expectation that the remaining 4 ratifications needed to make this treaty international law will take place within the next month. This is an enormous step forward. It is a clear statement by the international community that nuclear weapons have no place on this planet, and that it must be the highest national security priority of every country to eliminate them. Here in the United States, we've launched a companion campaign to ICANN. It's called Back from the Brink, the call to abolish nuclear weapons. And this is a campaign also made up of many, many NGOs, about 300. It's also been endorsed by about 50 cities and towns around the country and by 6 state legislative bodies. And it calls on the United States to make the fundamental change in our own nuclear policy necessary so that we will come into compliance with the Global Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. First and foremost, it calls on the United States to enter today into negotiations with the other 9 nuclear-armed countries, Russia, China, the UK, France, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea, to enter into negotiations with all of these states for an enforceable, verifiable, time-bound agreement to dismantle our remaining nuclear weapons. The campaign also calls on the United States to take 4 interim steps now to lessen the danger while these negotiations proceed. It calls on the US to commit to never using nuclear weapons first, to end the situation where the President of the United States has the unchecked authority to launch nuclear war without anybody else having to weigh in on the decision. It calls on the United States to take our nuclear weapons off of hair trigger alert. If we're going to blow up the world, we don't need to do it in 15 minutes. And by keeping our weapons on hair trigger alert, we dramatically increase the chances they will be used. And it calls on the United States to stop plans to spend $1.7 trillion over the next 30 years, modernizing every aspect of our nuclear arsenal, and instead to redirect those funds to the urgent social and health and educational needs which exist in our country today. I urge all of you to join this campaign. We have a terrific website, www.preventnuclearwar, one word, preventnuclearwar.org. And if you go there, you can learn how you as an individual and how your community can join in this national movement to eliminate nuclear weapons. We are facing today a stark choice. And when I talk about it, I draw my own religious tradition. In the Hebrew Bible, there's a passage in which it is reported that God said, "Behold, I have set before you life and death. Therefore choose life, that you and your children might live." That is literally the choice that we as humanity face today. And we need to be careful. We need to choose wisely. And in the spirit of Gandhi, we need to act with determination, with perseverance, so that indeed our children might live. It is an enormous burden which sits on all of us who know these things. And by talking to you today, I have shared that burden with all of you. Because once we know about the danger that humanity faces, we can't ignore that. We have to take action. But I hope all of you will also view this burden as a great gift. Every one of us wants to do good in our life. Those of us living today have been given the opportunity to save the world. And there is no greater thing that anyone can ever do with his or her life. Thank you very much.
The finale for the evening captures the spirit and essence of today's celebration. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Composed in 1955, this song is a gentle reminder to every generation to be at peace with themselves and with everyone around them. A true Gandhian message. And I'm introducing this song as my very talented co-host Sumedha is one of the singers you'll see shortly on your screen, along with a host of other Pittsburgh talent. Right, Sumedha?
That was a wonderful experience, Manisha. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being such a wonderful and appreciative audience. Though we couldn't see a single face, but I could feel your presence, I could feel your love, and I could feel the warmth. And I'm hoping that we can do this year after year and follow Gandhiji's legacy. A shout out to all our sponsors and organizers. I would also like to say a little note for all our creative writing winners that we are going to be in touch with you guys so that we can, on email, so that we can kind of, let you know that how we will be bringing your gifts and awards to you. So thank you for joining us. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
And let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as our Father. Brothers all are we. Let me walk with my brother in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant